Hello fellow practitioners. In this video I would like to tell you something about parameters of the trainings in PranaBreathe application. For that, let us go to Control tab. It's one of the main tabs in our app. And first we need to choose the training type. We tap on training type and choose, for instance, calming, okay? And we have the following parameters available for this training type. Those are total training duration. For default, it is 7 minutes. Let me put it back to default. But now you can see this little leftover of 12 seconds. How did that come from? It came from the fact that the training should be ended with the last breathing phase, so the cycle will be completed. And it will not fit compulsory in the amount of time that you have set, so it has some extra time needed, and you will see how much. And also, if you don't feel comfortable with your total training duration set in amount of minutes and seconds, you can set it in amount of cycles. And for that, you go to Menu, Settings, Training Duration, in amount of cycles. We go back and we can set the total training duration in the amount of cycles. Okay. The next line is ratio of breath cycle. It is unchanged for default trainings for the eight patterns that you get right after you have installed the app. But you can change it for all other patterns, and a little bit later I'll show you how. Okay. And the last line here is seconds per ratio unit. It is actually the index that will be multiplied by your ratio to get the actual time of your cycles. It is 3 seconds for default, but you can set different ones, different amounts of those seconds per ratio unit. So if we choose like 2.5, for instance, and we multiply it by ratio, we will get 2.5 seconds for inhaling, 5 seconds for retaining, 2.5 for exhaling, and 5 for air sustain. And it is very important, and I would like to highlight it, to choose the correct index here, because it actually states the training complexity for this training. It is not actually valuable to run for numbers. For instance, you're not cool if you have 7, right? But you are cool when you feel comfortable during the training and after the training. And it's the only criteria that really matters. You need to feel good during and after the training. That means no dizziness, no feeling of the lack of the air. You don't need to wait until it is all over and you can breathe how much as you like. It should not be like that. So if it is too complicated for you right now, just lower this number. Choose 2 seconds, for instance, per ratio unit, or even 1.5. It doesn't matter that much when you start. But once you are comfortable with that, you can actually make this number higher, for instance 4, and try it out if it feels comfortable for you. And if it feels comfortable, that's great. That means you are improving. But the pace is very individual. Okay, let's move on to the other pattern, for instance, power. Some patterns, default ones, have the additional line here. It is training level. Beginner, medium, and advanced. It is recommended to start with beginner level, and once you're comfortable with that, you move to medium and to advanced level. But there are much more options for the custom trainings that you have created yourself, or some trainings that you have downloaded from our Wiki database. Here are some of them here. But I'll show you as an example the pattern that I have created just now. It is called Experiment. Let it have 15 cycles, and we have 2 additional lines here. First is breathe methods. What is that? It is something that you can do with your nose or your mouth, so you can change the speed and the strength of the airflow. It actually changes the breathing session effect really a lot, and for some patterns it is very crucial actually. So you can inhale or exhale with your nose, with your one or another nostril, with your relaxed mouth or mouth folded tube-like, with your tongue sticking out folded tube-like, with your teeth clenched, with your mouth wide opened, or with your tongue sticking out. And you can retain pressing your fingers towards your nostrils or without that. Let us use for this training your nose for inhaling, your fingers to close your nose during the retain, and the relaxed mouth for exhaling. And just leave sustain like a regular one, okay? And you will see in training tab the indicator that will actually guide you through the breathe method. And we have additional line chants. Those are the sounds that you may produce during inhaling and exhaling. It is well known for instance, but it's not the only sound that it is interesting for us and might be interesting for us. For instance, let us speak for this training s for inhaling and sh for exhaling. It will sound something like sh. It increases the air resistance in the respiratory tract, and that will increase the percentage of oxygen uptake from the air. It might be useful during or before some hard physical exercises or maybe climbing up the mountains. Okay, and you will see also the chant indicator in your training tab once you started your practice. Okay, and the most interesting and very, I would say, delicate setting for your training is the ratio in advanced mode. So here we can see the table that helps us to set your ratio of breath cycle in a really high, like very sensitive way, I would say. For instance, we can make the phase fractional. What that means? It means that you have not just one, but for instance 1.5 for your ratio. Or you can make it as constant time. For instance, I set 5 seconds for retaining. That means that my retaining phase will last 5 seconds and it will not be affected by sec per unit index. Also for exhaling, I can make it as constant time and fractional as well. For instance, I can exhale during 6.5 seconds. Okay? And sustain, I can leave it just like that or set it to 0. By the way, in this table, we can set to 0 any phase, including exhalation and inhalation. And that is not possible for just regular mode like this one. See, you cannot set inhaling and exhaling to 0 from here. But everything you set in this training will affect the whole training, the whole breathing session. But how do you set a certain cycle or certain group of cycles? I will tell that to you in the video about dynamic mode. And now I wish you to have great trainings and we'll see you soon.